Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the question box for Friday, the 1st of October 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Shane Bailey. The question box is your weekly gaming talk show right here on twitch.tv/magic_cast. Every week, I invite on some good friends from the Australian and New Zealand games community to discuss, dissect, and sometimes debate the industry we love so much. This week, I am joined by two fellow Xbox mega fans. They are from the XboxCast, which is one of the longest running Xbox podcasts in Australia and New Zealand. Please welcome to the show Lee Howard and Kyle Dunkerley. How are you, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Evening,
good.
good
Thanks
mate.
to be here.
I'll go to you first, Lee. Thank you so much for staying up late over on across the pond for this show. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no good. Yeah, it is about 11:30 now, so if I start going to sleep, I have to
That's right.
make loud noises or something to. I have
Nodding
coffee.
off, just bashing the microphone with your head. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
we'll know. And Kyle, a bit closer in Melbourne. How are you tonight, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
Very well. Really excited to have you on the show. Before we get to the rundown of everything, I would love it if you'd be able to give our dear viewers a rundown of the Xbox Cast and what you guys do over on that fantastic show. Before I do that, I just want to quickly give a shout out to another Xbox show, Hall of Gamers, who raided earlier. Thanks so much to the guys over there. I was tuning in as I was prepping for this show, and I hope you guys had a great stream. But yeah, Kyle, Lee, tell us about the Xbox Cast.
Lee, you're the salesman.
No,
You want to take
no,
it
you
away?
you go for your life, mate.
So yeah, the Xbox Cast, we've started in 2016 as just a bunch of mates sitting around talking about Xbox games, just trying to bring some positivity into the gaming space, especially at that time where Xbox wasn't doing so well. We thought we'd like to highlight what Xbox was doing well and give our unofficial critique. We're not exactly professionals in this space, and we just like talking about games. So I called up Lee because he's got a fantastic voice, and I thought, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And the rest is history, as they say.
Nice. Lee, anything to
add? It's quite cool, actually. What's happened is we've kind of discovered our roles, haven't we, in this podcast? It's been quite interesting. We've kind of grown as we've done it. We started off just, you had a vague plan at the beginning.
Yeah,
we sat around. We had a microphone, and we sat around on the kitchen table with a microphone, and three of us chatting away. And we've kind of grown into having a plan and like proper graphics and a cool. People's in Discord, our cool community we have in Discord is amazing. Yeah, and that's what's kind of kept us going. The Discord community, is amazing. This place.
Yeah, it's definitely
cool.
the best part about running a show like this or like yours, sharing in the conversation and being able to just, I suppose, bathe in the greatness that is video games with other people, right, and just celebrate what we love about them. So
and getting encouraged and arguing.
That's true. Yeah. I will agree with Kyle though. Dulcet tones, Lee. You have.
Thanks.
Fantastic. You remind me of my mate Terry, who I do podcast with also. Hello to Simone in the chat as well. Simone joined me on the question box. The question box a few episodes ago, so good to have the whole Xbox cast here joining us this evening. Let's dive into the show, shall we? The question box, like I said, your weekly gaming talk show. It's divided into two segments. In the first half of the show, we'll dive into the top three, what we believe to be three of the most important stories from the week in games. And in the second half of the show is question time. We bring into question one big theme, topic, or trend to discuss, debate, and dissect. I thought it would be pretty topical for us to cover cloud gaming and subscription services, considering that Xbox Cloud Gaming just launched today, which is really exciting. It's been in beta and available to a whole list of other countries, but now we are able to boot up the Xbox app on our Android devices via the browser on iOS or on our PCs and consoles and actually play games via the cloud, which is pretty amazing. So we'll get to that topic at the end of the show. But for the moment, gentlemen, should we dive into the top three?
Yeah, let's do it.
Beautiful. Some really exciting news this week. It wasn't much of a slow news week. There was plenty to choose from, but one that I wanted to kick off with was a whole bunch of acquisition. Acquisition season is in full effect with PlayStation and Netflix making moves. So we've got a couple of stories here to cover. I'll read them out and then we'll dive into some talking points and questions as well. For those in chat, would love to get your thoughts on these news stories also. So please join us and we'll cover them as we go along as well. It starts. Consolidated Consolidation within the video games industry continues, with some of the biggest entertainment companies in the business looking to bolster internal production of exclusive content for their platforms. This past week, it was Sony and Netflix to nab some notable names. The House of PlayStation finally officially confirmed the acquisition of Austin, Texas-based studio Bluepoint Games, making it the 16th PlayStation studio following recent acquisitions of Housemarque, Nixxes, and Firesprite. The very talented team of roughly 70 people has a long history working closely with PlayStation, having shipped remasters of God of War, Uncharted, and Gravity Rush since its conception in 2006, and most recently releasing remakes of Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls, the latter of which has sold more than 1.4 million copies since it launched in November of last year. What's interesting is that Bluepoint's next game won't be a remake, but a wholly original IP. So yeah, PlayStation making a whole host of moves just in this year alone. I think this is like their fourth or fifth acquisition in the last 6 months, I want to say. And this comes after obviously Xbox making huge moves ever since 2018, and obviously most recently with Bethesda bringing in their 8 studios as well. So PlayStation almost catching up to Xbox. What do we make of this pattern, guys? Do we see PlayStation continuing to try and maybe chase the 23 studios that Xbox has, or do we think that maybe they'll start to settle down now that they've really bolstered their lineup? Lee, I might go to you first.
I wonder if they're searching for someone like Bethesda, though. Like to me, this looks like a bit of a we haven't got any games coming, so we're going to do some remakes of games, and these guys are really good at doing it. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, Kyle, what about yourself?
Yeah, I was in the similar boat to Lee. So like Bluepoint Games, who they've just acquired, they've worked with PlayStation forever. They haven't really done anything on Xbox, and they've been focusing on PlayStation RP, sort of revitalizing it, bringing it to a new generation. So I definitely see this as PlayStation boosting their internal teams or teams that they've worked with closely. It does seem to be a bit of a different sort of strategy that Microsoft is doing. Microsoft is going after like studios that they've partnered with, that they have a good working relationship with, that have also been multi-platform type studios, whereas Sony seems to be going after the ones that have been exclusively PlayStation partners, and there's been no third-party things. So I definitely feel like this is PlayStation just bringing more into the family that they've already had as like an extended family, rather than just as Xbox. I see it as Xbox are bringing cousins into the family in a way, and PlayStation is bringing like their sisters and their brothers into the family a bit closer, as how I see it.
Yeah,
I also see this as PlayStation making a lot of moves in order to get their RP ready for going onto PC, especially just their last acquisitions with the one company, I think it was Nixxes.
Nixxes, yeah, the Dutch team, yeah.
Yeah, they do the PC remakes or the remasters, or the ones that go across the ports. And Bluepoint doing the whole revitalizing their previous RP that they have. So I definitely see this as PlayStation getting ready to move into the PC space in a big way, because they're obviously seeing a lot of chatter just in general about what's left on the table by ignoring the PC space these days.
You know what the IP is that they're doing? Just curious, do you know what the new IP is? What the new game is?
No, they haven't said. They spoke about it in an interview with IGN, which I'll link in the chat momentarily. So not entirely sure, but yeah, from a studio that's only ever done remasters and remakes, that, at least for me, is really exciting. I know that there were rumors about potentially them working on a Metal Gear Solid remake, which I know a lot of PlayStation fans would have been really excited for. Pardon me. But yeah, not the case. I'm really happy for them. Like obviously this very talented team, they're not all fresh to the industry, right? They've come from very talented backgrounds, and they've been in the industry a long time. So I think they're due to be able to have their own crack at making their own.
It'd be nice to get PlayStation money behind them as well, wouldn't it, for the new IP? Maybe it's a good boost for them to.
Yeah, to be allowed to take a lot more risks.
And just lean on the resources of PlayStation Studios as well, right? Like being able to go to
and all the marketing and all that sort of cool stuff
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, QA, that sort of stuff, all the things that sometimes you would take for granted. But yeah, no, Kyle, I think I'm in complete agreement with you, right? Particularly around Sony's strategy about focusing on expansion to studios they have already close relationships with. We saw that with Insomniac back in 2018. Firesprite were made up for a lot of talent from their former Liverpool studio. They're kind of coming back into the family. Nixxes was working closely already with Guerrilla. And Housemarque, of course, almost exclusively have only done PlayStation exclusive games. So kind of reminds me of when back in 2018 Microsoft acquired Undead Labs and Playground Games, right? I think there would have been a lot of people who would have assumed that they were already Xbox first party studios, but now they officially are. And Simone in chat notes as well, PlayStation acquiring them is not really a loss for Xbox as well, right? Because they weren't making anything for the Xbox platforms. I think the last thing that they actually released for Xbox was the Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, which was on PlayStation 3 and 360 way back when. So, the Bluepoint team really haven't had a hand in creating any content for Xbox. So I think I would agree with Simone there. But yeah, what would we like to see Bluepoint create? Like they've most recently done the Demon Souls remake, so they have a great pedigree with third-person action games. Before that, they did the remake for Shadow of the Colossus. Would we want to see them continue to do that? I think that would certainly fit within PlayStation's existing portfolio, right? They've got some fantastic third-person action games there. Or do we want to see them go somewhere different? Kyle?
I'd love to see them do Shadow of the Colossus 2 or something similar. Like for Shadow of the Colossus for the new generation, for the younger gamers that didn't experience the first one, and for the PlayStation, for this next gen that we're currently at, with like where graphics are just exploding, where open world is just amazing. Imagine a Shadow of the Colossus built on that technology. That would be the dream, especially since they've had hands in remastering the Shadows of the Colossus already. They kind of know what to go with it. So you give them that, and you say, here's the universe of Shadow of the Colossus in a way. Now you run with it. Turn that into a franchise. Yeah.
What about you, Lee? What would you want to see from them, do you think?
I'm trying to think of the name of the game, but it's a black and white game almost. It's like I can't remember. There's a game I was thinking of. What was it called? No, I can't think of the game. But there's quite a cool game, and you walk around town. It's all completely empty, and it's all very kind of spooky and
like Silent Hill.
Silent Hill, exactly like Silent Hill. Yeah,
like
a Silent Hill remake. Yeah, horror game. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Silent Hill, yeah, like a Silent Hill sort of thing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, for sure. I think, they seem really talented. I don't know all of the individual developer backgrounds within that team, but I know Austin, Texas, is home to some other very talented studios. BioWare has a team there, so I'm sure if they're wanting to create an RPG, they could certainly give it a crack. A horror game, certainly, a shooter. I think it's really exciting that they could go in any direction. I think just for me personally, PlayStation has like the third-person cinematic action game genre just on lock. I really don't need any more of those from them. So I kind of would want to see something a bit different. Even if it was just the setting was really cool. Like it can still be a third-person action game. But if it's a story style or with characters or mechanics that are completely new, like Returnal, right? Like it's third-person action, but it is fast-paced, almost bullet hell, roguelike, so which is completely different to something like Uncharted or Horizon or God of War. So I'm most curious to see how things go, but that's only one half of this first story. Of course, Netflix acquired a studio as well. I've noted here, as mentioned, Sony wasn't the only one with acquisition news to share this week. Netflix announced that it has acquired Night School Studio, the beloved Californian team behind indie darlings Oxenfree and Afterparty. Having publicly outlined ambitions to expand into gaming in July, this is the first major step in Netflix's expansion outside of film and TV. The entertainment giant has confirmed that gaming content will be made available within its existing subscription service, meaning for now it won't charge its more than 200 million subscribers more to access any video game content. Night School Studio. Firstly, Oxenfree and Afterparty. Have you guys dabbled in either of these?
Yeah, absolutely loved Oxenfree, hated Afterparty with a passion. So for me, their games have been 50-50.
Hit and miss, literally one hit, one miss.
The one game, Oxenfree, has been perfect, and Afterparty has just been everything I hate about those type of games.
Wow. What about you, Lee?
Yeah, Oxenfree is awesome. And I got scared off Afterparty by Kyle, so never played it. I think it's a good fit for Netflix because they kind of go for the mobile games, don't they? Like they did Stranger Things game.
Yes, yeah.
Which is kind of like a similar feel to, I think, to Oxenfree or Afterparty.
Yeah,
graphics-wise and that sort of level.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a great fit for them. Purely because the games that Night School Studios seem to focus on have very simple mechanics, right? That I think could even be controlled or played rather with a TV remote. You might not even need a controller. So I think in that sense, it's a good fit for Netflix. But what, like, just thinking more broadly about Netflix and their strategy into gaming, they seem like they're going to really make a serious effort to make a dent in the gaming space. They're talking about making gaming content available to their subscribers, free of charge, well, free as part of their existing subscription. What do we want to see? Do we want to see more experiences like this, like the Stranger Things sort of Telltale-esque adventure games, or would you want to see maybe like more traditional action or shooter games playable via Netflix? Lee, I'll go to you first.
I think they've got a really good way to do it because that's what Xbox and PlayStation do well. They do the fighters, the FPSs, all that sort of games. So if they go down the indie route, they can end up being like a mini Steam sort of style. Or there's mini games kicking around. And there's tons of little indie games out there and creators out there who would love Netflix money to create games.
Completely agree. I think like this is just the first step in their strategy, right? You can't have a comprehensive gaming department made up solely of one little independent studio. So clearly going to have to get more content on their platform. Kyle, what would you want to see from Netflix's gaming efforts?
Well, Netflix have an amazing sort of RP range that they could do, and we see that with the Stranger Things games. So what better way to tie the subscribers into it and be emotionally invested in Netflix as a platform than by continuing those stories of their RP in a game format? And it reminds me a bit about that Black Mirror Bandersnatch episode where it was that almost choose your own adventure. Now imagine if Netflix started doing that with their series and bringing the whole sort of game dynamics into watching TV. You're watching a TV, but this TV series is based on your choices on what you do in the TV series in a way. And with their RP, with Netflix's RP that they're pouring huge amounts of money into, I see this as it's a value add. It's a really great value add for them. I don't see them limiting themselves just to the Netflix platform. I see them wanting to push more into becoming sort of like a publisher with content on other platforms, simply because they have so much RP and there's so much other people that they could bring into it to say, here's the game. If you want to watch it, subscribe to Netflix. You know, how much each one could scratch each other's back in a way. So you get the gamers who play this game, go, that story was incredible, but the game ends on a cliffhanger and it says, you want to continue the story? Watch this episode or watch this TV series. And suddenly you're opening that up to a whole bunch of new people who will, even if they just subscribe for a month, hey, they've got a Netflix account now. How easy is it to then just re-enable that when the next sort of series launches?
Yeah.
It's their first, they're opening the door in a way to a massive audience that they don't have at the moment. And I see this as it's a really great move for them. And I'm so pleased for the studio as well, because Night School Studio, they did really good stuff. I know people who love both Oxenfree and Afterparty, and I think this is a great sort of home for them. I think what they're going to do with it is really, Netflix is looking for the next 10 years, where they transition from DVDs to streaming. This is them looking at the next 10, 15 years, going from how do we go from just static content on the TV to more engaging content, like TV 2.0 in a way.
Yeah, no, it's
I have a question, Corey. I have a question. Yeah. So I feel like this has been done before, though. I do worry. So Sci-Fi Channel did the same thing with a TV program, which I have no idea what it was called. It was like 10 years ago they did it, and it was like a choose your own adventure sort of TV series.
Right, because correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Didn't go that well. I can't remember the name of the movie now or TV program, but it was supposed to be like every week people would make decisions and then it would change the script depending on what was said.
Kind of like a voting system as well, like just the popular would take the story in a particular direction. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but that's what Bandersnatch did, right? Like people would decide on where it would go, or was it individual?
No, it was actually on the TV program, wasn't it? When it was actually playing, you could choose it as you were watching it.
Okay. Bandersnatch was individual, so it was left up to you to decide how the episode went.
Right.
Whereas the other one on Sci-Fi was probably more democracy-based. And as soon as you put anything out to the internet that's democracy-based, you end up with Boaty McBoatface. So
you do.
So you can see where Sci-Fi failed, and also you can see where the tech is now, especially with Bandersnatch and Netflix and cloud gaming that we're going to be talking about, like how that can scratch each other's back. It can drive more subscriptions to Netflix. It can drive more people playing games simply because they enjoyed the story of the TV series.
Will we get a Netflix box, do you think?
A console?
console, a little mini console or something that you plug into the back of your TV. And
yeah, streaming stick.
I mean,
Stick.
I would have. I'm not sure I would have ever guessed Valve making a handheld PC. So anything.
Well, when it comes out, when it comes out,
No, you raise an interesting point there that I hadn't thought about, Kyle, and that is Netflix as a publisher, like putting content outside of the subscription. I think most people would argue that then doesn't entice people to subscribe to Netflix, though, right? But if Netflix can create a different revenue stream elsewhere on other platforms like Xbox or Switch or PlayStation, or mobile for that matter as well, then maybe they begin to function more of like a boutique publisher, similar to like Annapurna or Raw Fury or any of those guys, Devolver Digital, right? They have this massive audience that I'm sure a lot of indie developers would love to reach, just like many of them are clamoring to get onto Game Pass as well. So that could be really interesting. I'm keen to see how that goes. Oxenfree 2 was already announced before the acquisition. I hadn't seen any news on whether that will remain on traditional platforms or if it is now a de facto Netflix exclusive of some kind. So I guess we have to wait and see. But interesting. Yeah, big moves by Netflix and PlayStation. Let's move on now to story number 2, and that is regarding our beloved Game Pass. Continues to add a bunch of really cool content to the service, but it has assembled a killer October lineup, and it's headlined by Square Enix's own Marvel Avengers, which originally released in September of last year on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. The Crystal Dynamics developed adaptation has had a troubled life thus far, losing players almost immediately after launch and struggling to gain them back with a roadmap of content that hasn't always met fans' expectations. This isn't the first Square Enix title to make its way to Microsoft service, with Just Cause 4, Nier Automata, and Octopath Traveler all having featured in the past, as well as, most notably, Outriders launching into the service on day one at the start of the year. Avengers, pretty big game. I think it landed with a bit of a thud, and Square Enix has sort of been scrambling to get it back on track. It's joining Game Pass. Do we think that this might revive it in some way? Kyle, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's on Game Pass, so it's kind of essentially free to try now. So it has opened up it's reduced the barrier to entry for a lot of people. I think a lot of people will jump in and realize actually they just wanted to play an Avengers game, and this scratches that itch. Never mind what the critics said or how it technically fails or anything like that. It's cool to be Iron Man. It's cool to be Captain America throwing your shield around, you know? And for a lot of people, for the vast majority, I think that's all they want. They just want to be able to throw their shield around. And I think it would almost not revitalize it in a way, but you'd end up with it being a cult classic over time, being fondly remembered as, why didn't we get an Avengers 2, for instance?
Simone chimes in chat saying she completely agrees. She says, give me a lightsaber, I don't care if it's a good game. So yeah, the Avengers IP might be enough to entice a few people who are subscribing to Game Pass and might not have realized that this game has had a troubled 12 months. They just see an exciting new Marvel game as part of their subscription service and then just going to dive in and give it a crack. There's no skin off their back, right? Like, this is a part of their subscription service, so it doesn't really cost them anything more than time. Lee, what do you think? Do you think this could potentially give it a good jab of, I suppose, life into this flailing game at this point?
I kind of disagree, because I think like Fallout 76 tried it. They said, well, okay, we'll go on Game Pass on Fallout 76 and it will be amazing because all these people will play it, and it's still taken now just about fixed. Like, it's taken quite a while to actually play it, and now people are going, oh, it's not as bad as everyone says it is, which is probably what Marvel will end up like in
glowing review,
another
right?
couple of reviews. Like, it will, yeah. So I don't know if it will work. I think there's a bit of a last-ditch effort to try and rescue the game.
Yeah,
because I know one of our listeners.
Yeah,
one of our listeners has played it, and he says it's all right, but it's not very well put together. Like, it kind of, you struggle a bit with it.
Yeah, I haven't played it, so Simone, you asking chat, is the Avengers not single player? You probably could play it single player, though I dare say to get the most out of it, you want to play it with friends. And Jason, Neon Mirror in chat, thanks for joining us, mate, says, I would have been over the moon if this was a single player campaign. Yeah, it's his point, you can play single player, but yeah, I think what is good about this news is that it includes all the DLC up until this point.
Yeah, a new DLC as well.
Including the War for Wakanda expansion, which was only just released recently and was received pretty well by the Avengers community, so that's fantastic. I would have guessed that it would have been the base game available in Game Pass, and maybe if you were an Ultimate subscriber, you get the perks of having access to the DLC, which sometimes even Microsoft's own titles can do. Every now and then we get get handed a treat like Gears 5 Hivebusters as part of the subscription as well. So yeah, I find that to be really interesting. Square Enix, I think for the most part, must be really pleased with Game Pass. Like I mentioned, a lot of their titles have been in Game Pass. Outriders, obviously, there on day one. We know that the Final Fantasy back catalog is on its way also. That was announced way back in XO19, I think, and it's taken a while for that to come over. So Square Enix seemingly really enjoying having their games in Game Pass. So I'm most curious to see how this goes. And yeah, to your point, Lee, I think whether it can, like Fallout 76, try and boost the numbers of the player base. I certainly hope it can. I checked the Steam charts not long ago, and the average player base per month was looking pretty dire. Like we're talking very low thousands.
Would you jump in? Now it's free. Now it's on Game Pass.
Honestly, no, not because I don't think it would be a good time, but it's just, I don't know, it really seems like a relatively generic action game. Like, I'm not excited about Guardians of the Galaxy either. Like, they really just don't do anything for me. I'll stick to the MCU films, enjoy those.
Yep.
But in the meantime, I've got too many other games that I'm way more excited to play.
And I think there's a problem. I think that's the issue, isn't it, with the game?
Yeah, that's right. Like particularly on Game Pass as well, with things like 12 Minutes and Artful Escape and Hades recently, which I've been speaking about and been playing on my streams as well. There was support for choice. Psychonauts 2 just launched. Forza Horizon 5 will be out in a month, and Halo shortly after that as well. So, yeah. Have you guys played? And will you dive in now that's in Game Pass just to give it a crack, see what it's like?
Oh, I'm quite tempted. I normally jump into games and have a play for an hour or two just out of curiosity. Mm-hmm. And if it's good, it grabs me. It does. If not, then I'll just get rid of it and move on.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a miss. The MCU used to excite me, and then it no longer does. So I'm not a MCU follower anymore. So if I do jump in, I'll probably be kind of out of the loop with what's actually the story trying to tell me.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I totally get that. The MCU has been going on 13 years at this point, so I don't blame you for sort of falling off. It's been long in the tooth for that one. I know it excites a lot of people, but yeah, it's not for everyone anymore. Definitely.
One thought I do have with this jumping into Game Pass now is that there's a lot of hype with Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine that the PlayStation Showcase showed off. So maybe Square Enix has seen a lot more interest in this game.
Look at me.
Yeah, and gone, remember, we also have some MCU stuff on Xbox. And it could be that kind of angle that they're coming at from. Going,
and the movie comes out as well, don't forget. The new Spider-Man movie comes out. And that other one just came out last week.
And I think there's Spider-Man DLC for Avengers coming, but I believe exclusive to PlayStation. So I think they're trying to make this game as big as possible in preparation for that as well. Anyway, we'll move on to story number 3 now. We head on over to Video Game Chronicles, VGC, where Andy Robertson has this story about a PlayStation IP potentially coming back as a revival. Sources say that Destruction All-Stars studio Lucid have been handed Twisted Metal to revive, and the game is in early development and looks to be coinciding with a TV series. I'll just read verbatim from the article. According to the sources, the new car combat installment, which by release will be the series first in over a decade, has started early development at the Liverpool, UK-based studio. One person with knowledge of Lucid's plans suggested that the revival would be built around a free-to-play model, partly in response to Destruction All-Stars' last-minute transition from a premium game to a PlayStation Plus title. The release is planned to coincide with an upcoming TV series in 2023, we were told. I wanted to throw this one in there, not necessarily to focus too much on the idea of Twisted Metal returning, but to get your thoughts on PlayStation seemingly doing a great job doubling down on nostalgia. We've seen them bring back, we're just talking earlier about Bluepoint and the fact that they have had revived beloved IP in Shadow of the Colossus and Demon Souls. We've seen Crash Bandicoot return and PlayStation obviously really support that as well. They seem to be really leveraging their own legacy, right? And being Xbox fans ourselves, would we want to see the same thing? So I asked the question, when you look at PlayStation and the great job they're doing sort of shepherding and curating their own legacy and classic back catalogue, do we want to see more of that on the Xbox side of things? Carla, I'll go to you first.
Personally, I'd like to see Xbox go in a more experimental, trying out things of way, trying different things, just throwing things at the wall to see what kind of sticks these days. Because for so long we've had Xbox be Gears, Forza, Halo. And this move, when I was reading this story, I kind of got that feeling again. Like PlayStation is almost going to turn into a 3 tentpole type game of a platform, and it's their time, their generation of going through the Gears, Forza, Halo type generation. It's also interesting that they giving this remake to the studio Lucid that did the Destruction All Stars, because Destruction All Stars wasn't received very well. It actually hurt Sony quite financially and also credibility wise, because it came out on PS Plus. Like the decision to put on PS Plus apparently was made the day before it went onto PS Plus, and the decision to also drop its price down from full price to $20 was also done the day before. So to me, this kind of like says, here's a well-known genre, a well-known game that you're updating for the future, for this new tech that we have. This is kind of like a last chance move is how I see it. You do this and you do this well and you get to stick around. You do this and it flops and we're going to have some hard conversations.
Yeah, no, I think you raised some great points. Lee, before we just dive into Xbox, I forgot to mention the question that I'd written down here, just like, like the idea of Sony reviving this as a free-to-play title. Do you think that potentially allows it the opportunity to have the best opportunity to succeed? I think is the way I'd put that question to you.
Oh, to me, yes. I wonder if that's yeah. But so Game Pass has a lot of games, doesn't it? The kind of old games coming in, the old 360 games, the old Xbox games coming in. I don't know if it's something like that as well. They're trying to bring back games which are going, oh, well, Game Pass is full of all these old games that people remember and play and spend money on almost. So, I wonder if there's a bit of that.
Yeah, like to that point as well. Like I think Xbox has been doing a good job with their own legacy, but in a different way, right? Like they're not like reviving specific.
They're not
IPs,
reviving, no.
But they're allowing you access to old generation games in the original Xbox and 360 via backwards compatibility. Pardon me. In fact, we'll get to the topic in a moment. But I was playing Banjo-Kazooie, the Xbox Live Arcade version that also shipped as a part of Rare Replay, on my phone with touch controls this morning in bed because I was excited to try cloud gaming. I just grabbed my phone when I woke up and like, cloud gaming's available. Let me throw up the app and I'll start playing Banjo. We'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, servicing their own legacy in a different way. To wrap up, just the thoughts on.
I don't think PlayStation can do it though, can they? They can't play old games on the Xbox on the PlayStation.
Not
so I think
natively,
they have to do
no.
this.
Yeah, so I think for PS3,
this,
it's only streaming via PlayStation now because of that Cell processor way back when. So just to wrap up thoughts on Twisted Metal, I like that PlayStation, does this. They look into their back catalogue and see what could still be relevant, what could live, what are our fans asking for. We see people screaming for, bring back Jak and Daxter or Sly Cooper. And sometimes they come back in some really cool ways. But I think for Twisted Metal, as a free-to-play title, I think that makes the most sense because I don't think you can release a car combat game in 2021, 2022, or 23 for that matter, and charge $70 like they were looking to do with Destruction All Stars, to your point, Kyle. So if this, rumor does pan out to be true, then I would hope that it's a free-to-play title and they give it a great push so as many people can play it as possible. And maybe it's a PC day one launch as well. Maybe Nixus comes in and helps with a PC version, and then you allow a greater pool of people to dive into it.
Do you think this will tie back to the first story? Because the first story is about a company that does remakes. So they can go back for the back catalogue and give them all to Blue, whatever they're called, and get them to do all the Bluepoint, get them to do all the remakes. Because they're good at it already, so.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I think with them saying that they're going to focus on their new IP, that maybe that won't be the case this time. But Lucid, I think, because they have that experience with vehicular combat, so that's probably why they've gone to this studio to sort of tap that talent or that experience. But again, let's pivot this more to the Xbox side. Kyle, you said you want to see a different strategy from Xbox in that sense that to get away from the Halo Gears Forza sort of trope or I suppose pattern they found themselves in, particularly during the 360 and Xbox One era. But if there was an Xbox IP that you'd like to see return in a similar fashion like Twisted Metal, is there one that jumps to mind, like an old school Xbox game that we haven't seen in a long time you'd like to see come back?
Oh man, Fusion Frenzy.
Pretty
anything from
Amen.
the old, Xbox original launch, anything that generation, because that generation was trying things, new things, different things. How can we leverage this type of gaming? And I think there's a lot of really good ideas that would explode these days, because I mean, look at the success of games like Fall Guys and Among Us. There's a lot of experimentation.
Where's Splinter Cell as well?
Yeah, I mean, Splinter Cell. I'd love to have a Splinter Cell updated and remade for this generation. But just that type of generation, there's a lot of experimentation going on, what sticks. And I feel with Game Pass, Microsoft have a perfect entry point. Here, give it to this little studio, make a game that's 5 hours long of Fusion Frenzy and just update it, give it ray tracing, 4K 60, Battle Royale, make it a party game that has all the achievements unlocked in 5 hours, and just watch everyone fall over backwards trying to play this game with their friends with a couple beers, for instance. Things like that. That's
after you, keep going.
I was just going to say that's where I'd like to see them go. And I think with Game Pass now as the platform, they definitely have the ability to move forward and try new things.
I've just thrown some Fusion Frenzy gameplay up on the screen. I totally echo you, Kyle, with Fusion Frenzy as an option. It is a beloved IP amongst the most hardcore Xbox fans, and it's one that I have still installed on my Series X to this day. Like, I bought it the second it was made available via backwards compatibility. My brother and my cousins and I, we have so many fond memories of this game. In an era, like you said, of Fall Guys, Gang Beasts, Overcooked, just really fantastic couch co-op based shenanigans as well. I think this could really fit in with Xbox, because also, Phil Spencer herself has noted that they're lacking in a lot of family friendly games as well. This is something that could appeal to all audiences, and it's just timeless fun, like mini games as well. Like, we don't really have a lasting IP on the Xbox side of things like Mario Party, right? Like, this could be their answer to that, and I think it would work so well, particularly on cloud as well. Like, very simple controls, so you could be playing, with your mates on the train home from work or whatever while they're at home. Or, I think that would be really great. Lee,
I'll say 4K TVs are great for kind of having split ops because it gets really high resolution.
Yes,
so
yeah, definitely. But Lee, you mentioned Splinter Cell. Tell me more about how you'd like to see that one return.
Oh, so I had the original Xbox, and I had Halo, Splinter Cell, Midnight Run, I think it was called, which was a racing car game. Midnight Club, that's it. Yeah, had that game.
Rockstar,
the kudos for sliding around, and so I just remember hours of going through Splinter Cell, sneaking around, and it's an amazing game, but it's never come back, has it? So
still the Tom Clancy IP still rests with Ubisoft, so here's hoping they see that come back in some fashion. I would love for Xbox to just front up and say, hey, we will fund a Splinter Cell game, because it really is known as an Xbox game, right?
Just buy Ubisoft and do it.
Just buy Ubisoft. That's easy done.
It's acquisition month, so just do it.
It's acquisition season. That's right. Yeah, Xbox, hold my beer. Let's buy Ubisoft.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of some classic IPs. Totally echo what you guys have just said with Fusion Frenzy and Splinter Cell. Ninja Gaiden would probably be the one for me. And similar situation with Splinter Cell, right? An IP not owned by Xbox, but one that is known as an Xbox franchise because it was originally exclusive. So I would love to see Team Ninja, who are currently working on that Final Fantasy Souls-like game, Stranger something. Strange. Anyway, they're busy at the moment, but either fronting up to I think Koei Tecmo owns the IP, and just saying, hey, here's a whole bunch of cash for you to go and make a beautiful Ninja Gaiden, even just a remake of the original. It's a 10 out of 10 action
Jade
game.
Empire. How about Jade Empire though? That game
just
came
about to
and was
mention
awesome
Jade
and
Empire.
disappeared.
Just thinking,
Ninja Jade Empire,
yeah, that was BioWare developed as well, right?
Yeah.
They got pretty close ties with EA. EA is part of Game Pass, so maybe they can make something happen as well. So many fantastic IP just dormant from the original Xbox era that I think could definitely come back. So I think overall, I would like to see Xbox make more of an effort, like PlayStation, to revive IP in new ways instead of just only offering us backwards compatibility. Backwards compatibility is great. I'm never going to complain about that. But I would like to see these games brought into the modern era. I think that's kind of what I would like to see.
Now, do you think that maybe they got a bit burnt because of Crackdown 3, that was holding on too much to Crackdown's legacy of what it could do and trying to update it for not really updating it, but just making it a prettier version of Crackdown. And maybe
It wasn't
Microsoft
pretty enough, was it? Though that was the problem. It wasn't
well,
quite
it,
Xbox
it's
Series
pretty,
X.
but it's still old
Yeah.
school. Like when you boot it up, it still feels like a 360 game.
Well, it was like it was designed 7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea of maybe bringing old stuff back was burnt a little bit with Crackdown 3.
I certainly hope that's not the case. I hope there's no, executive on the Xbox side of things saying, no, we can't bring back Ninja Gaiden and Fusion Friends in Splinter Cell because Crackdown didn't work out, guys. It's just not going to happen. I hope that's not the case, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't see it happening under Phil's guidance, but maybe there's someone who still remembers Crackdown 3 there and it just has flashbacks of Nam whenever it gets mentioned.
I think Phil has noted as well, like there have been questions asked of, why don't we see this game come back or a remake of this game as well? And he has noted that it really needs to come from a developer, like that they have ambitions to bring back and see these legacy Xbox IP revived, but they would need to find partners to do so. Development studios who are passionate about the IP to really bring it into the modern era. So they had that with I'm forgetting the name of the studio that was working on the Phantom Dust revival, but that didn't work out and it was a cancelled project in the Xbox One era. But yeah, they had a team really passionate about Phantom Dust and wanted to bring it forward. I think it was Double Helix who were really excited to bring Killer Instinct back, right? And that worked out fantastically. I wish that would kind of return as well. Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah, maybe they're just waiting to find a partner to be like, hey, we really want to work on a new Fusion Frenzy, or we really want to bring back Viva Pinata or something to that extent. So
I wonder if it will happen later because there's they've bought a lot of studios recently which already had stuff happening. So maybe they're finishing off their projects for the next couple of years and then it will slowly come through.
Slowly come back.
I think the most obvious one to me would be Playtonic, who worked on Yooka-Laylee. Old Rare talent started their own studio, wanted to make a game like Banjo-Kazooie and just split off and did their own thing. They kickstarted Yooka-Laylee and it was a huge sort of Kickstarter crowdfunding success. It was received relatively well. I think if you give that studio budget and time to make a Banjo-Kazooie remake and then maybe a sequel after that, if it's successful, that could totally work. So I think Xbox understands the value of its own IP. To my earlier point, I think they just need to find the right partners. But look, he's hoping we see more revivals from them this year.
They really have to find someone who's passionate about the IP. Because at the end of the day, they're not building Excel. They're not building the next Office app. They're building something that if you put it out without passion, immediately people can tell this is just a cash grab. Like how Battlefront 2 was launched and it was immediately just a cash grab until people with passion started actually working on it to try and make it better. But you get that feeling immediately. You can tell in a game if it's not done with passion, then immediately you just lose those people. Because it's not like Excel, it's not like Word or a typical app that an office will run where who cares if the person who made it is dead inside and just, there's no passion in coding Excel ever. Even using Excel.
I don't know about that. I reckon there are some Xbox XL, mega fans out there. I've got a couple of friends who just love their spreadsheets.
I've got an accountant who's like that. He loves the spreadsheets. He lives in spreadsheets. Yeah.
There you go, Simone in chat. Your own wife, Carl, saying Excel is the.
Yeah, she's a spreadsheet master, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. But I mean, she's not working on Excel, is the thing.
Right.
Well, she uses it for gaming.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to wrap up the top three there and pivot now into question time. Like I said at the start of the show, this is where we bring in one big theme, topic, or trend from the industry to discuss and dissect and debate about. Xbox Cloud Gaming launched in Australia today, which is really, really exciting. As of right now, I go onto the Xbox website and you navigate over to Game Pass and you can filter by games available just via the cloud. 298 games are available to play via the cloud. Not all of them have native touch control. Some of them require a controller to play. And obviously we've seen different peripherals become available in other territories as well. Some designed by peripheral companies like the Razer Kishi. We also have the Backbone, which is proving very popular, which something I really, really want as well. Maybe a Christmas present I'll have to request. But guys, yeah, Xbox Cloud Gaming. Firstly, when you first, just to wind it way back, when you first heard Phil Spencer get up on the E3 stage so many years ago and say, hey, we are going to be delivering Xbox Cloud Gaming to the masses. One day you'll be able to play your favorite games no matter where you are. You are at the center of your gaming experience. What were your initial thoughts on this one? Was it excitement? Was it hesitation? Was it skepticism? Lee, I'll go to you first on this one.
Oh, very excited. So I don't actually have a PC that can play games. So my immediate reaction was, excellent, I can now play games and not have to go and buy a $2,000 gaming box. And on a big TV if I want to as well, because they were talking about streaming to any device and free TV. And yeah, so I was very, very excited and signed up for the beta immediately. And got into the beta and then found out I couldn't actually do it because I'm in the wrong country, which was a bit sad. So still now I'm very sad. Yeah, I was like, oh, I got the invite. This is amazing. No one else has got the invite around me, but I can actually use it. So that's
amazing.
Sad.
I just imagine you've been invited to a party, but realize it's in a different country.
Not that. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's water in the way.
Kyle,
I think it's awesome. Like just playing on any devices are cool. Playing on a Sony TV, playing Xbox games on a Sony TV, that's going to really annoy them. That's what I thought.
Kyle, what about you? When you first heard of xCloud and this promise from Phil, what were your thoughts?
Just joy, excitement. The idea of, just pulling out your phone during a lunch break while at work, cracking open just a silly game that you're working on, something you can just jump into for half an hour, but it's on your phone and your progress is saved no matter where you are. It's got your save file. It's just such a good idea and such a great use for pushing tech forward. Like, it was just pure excitement. And then hearing Phil say that you're the center of your gaming ecosystem, it's something, I think, when we started the XboxCast, it's something we kind of believed was that we're the center of the gaming and not the other way around. So we're very much like, we have lives and gaming comes second. So when Phil's like, you're the center, it very much spoke to almost our core beliefs of we get to decide how and when we play, rather than being tied to one plastic box in one room of the house, on one couch. We can play Sea of Thieves sitting on the toilet. I mean, that's the dream, right?
That's the dream. Sea of Thieves on the toilet. Put it
Don't
on.
Fall off your toilet.
There you go. There's a quote for you, Xbox. If you ever want to market Xbox Cloud Gaming locally, just quote Kyle Dunkerley from the XboxCast. Sea of Thieves on the toilet. That's the dream. So yeah, let's talk about where it is today. Right now, it's just launched. Like I mentioned earlier, I tried Banjo-Kazooie just on my phone with touch controls. Gotta say, not a huge fan of touch controls. As precise as they can try and get it, it's just never going to replicate the tactile nature of using an actual controller. So I think I probably will find a way to get a backbone. I started a new job on Tuesday. It's going to require me, once lockdown ends here in New South Wales, to travel to Sydney. So I will have plenty of time each day that I do commute to work to play something. The idea that I can... Right now I've been powering through Hades, which it will end up being one of my favorite games of all time, I'm sure. I play it on my Series X in the living room on my beautiful LG OLED. I quit out, it saves to the cloud, and then when I want to stream it, I boot it up on Game Pass via my PC, and it automatically syncs, and I'm just continuing my next run. The idea that that could then sync, and I'm just going to continue that run on the train, just blows my mind. I think that's so cool. And yet, to your point, Kyle, like, it did feel like, just a marketing tagline. You were the center of your gaming experience, but it really feels as though we're getting to that point where all these other entertainment mediums have got to, right, where you don't have to worry about where you can access Netflix or YouTube, for that matter. YouTube and Netflix, they're just everywhere, and you can access them on any device that you own, and the experience is always consistent. So the idea that Xbox is going to get there, hopefully, if this all comes together and works, is just really, really exciting. But yeah, I'm just curious, Lee, you mentioned that you haven't had the chance to, but what do you see as the potential pitfalls for this one? Like, I myself, just to maybe prompt you with where I want to take the conversation is, will the mainstream market really take to something like this? Like, does someone who would never want to own a console or a gaming PC give Sea of Thieves a crack? Is that type of game too complicated? Like, do we see the mainstream market only sticking to like mobile, more puzzle experiences? I'm keen to see, now that it's available, will it be adopted, do you think?
Do you think the network will hold it as well? Like, the network in New Zealand, I'm not sure it will handle playing games on your train, coach, whatever, because it's quite hilly here. So 4G is a bit patchy, so your game kind of disappears and comes back again. So there is that issue. I wonder if they're actually going for like a Chinese market or the Japanese market. We're really into the handheld devices as well. It all seems to be going that way, especially with a Scarlet Nexus coming out as well, which is huge. And that's going to be on cloud as well immediately.
Yeah, that was a big announcement just out of Tokyo Game Show. Scarlet Nexus originally launched in June on Xbox, but not into Game Pass. Now will be available in Game Pass. So yeah, pretty big get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you raised the question of just will it work, right? I think that's the first obstacle, right? They need the tech to be there, and they obviously need consumers to have access to good internet. I think they've mentioned that the base requirement is 10 megabits down, which isn't asking a whole lot, but you know, Australia is notorious for spotty internet. So Kyle, what about you? What potential obstacles do you see there, and do you see the mainstream market giving this a crack? Do you think they sign up for Xbox? You know, does any soccer mum sign up for Xbox Game Pass knowing that, oh wow, I don't have to play Candy Crush anymore, I can play Gears 5?
I definitely think the market is, as Lee said, it's more geared towards where the handhelds are really big. So in the Asian markets where PUBG and Fortnite on mobile have just exploded and turned Epic into these billion-dollar companies overnight because all the kids just play on their phones. And this is a great entry point to say, you know, you can play on your phone with these touch controls, which are not the best. Maybe go out and buy an Xbox controller. Oh, you like the Xbox controller? We've got something else for you. Here's a Series S. Oh no, now you've got a 4K TV. Well, here's a Series X, and it's a great way to get them into the ecosystem. But like Lee says, playing over 5G, which is by itself an interesting tech of the way it sends data and receives data is not constant, not like a wired connection. I definitely feel like there's going to be some inconsistencies, and maybe that'll turn some people off because they'll be playing through a game and they'll lose connection. They'll die through a Hades run when they're going for an achievement, and that might just be enough to say, this is stupid, I'm never trying this again. Or it might be flawless, work amazingly well, and they just go, this is the future, this is the tech. I'm never needing to plug an Xbox into my TV again.
Did you see the Xbox One's now getting on the alpha, is getting cloud gaming on it?
Yeah.
So you can now play Xbox Series X games on your Xbox One.
Yeah, games that like Microsoft Flight Simulator that would not run natively on an Xbox One console can be played via the cloud. So that's really cool. Like all of a sudden, this 2013 console is no longer obsolete, right? Like if you have access to the cloud gaming, you've got a strong enough internet connection, you can still use that box to run the game. So I think that's really smart of them for sure. Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I think Xboxes is that going to say from the landfill, and suddenly your 2013 day one Xbox One, you can just pass it on to the kids with your Game Pass subscription for game sharing, and suddenly they're playing all the same games you are on a box that if you tried to take it to Gumtree or Trade Me would get you $50, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, we touched mostly there about the mobile market, and right now that seems to be the focus for cloud gaming here. But Xbox has noted in the past that they want to eventually have cloud gaming on TVs as well, right? Some kind of Xbox app on your smart Samsung, LG, Sony TV, and using that as a way to play games. So that could be an interesting way in. Obviously, a lot of these TVs ship with Netflix and YouTube and Disney Plus and other entertainment apps already installed. Yeah, could we see that as a viable way to penetrate the mainstream? Maybe. I, for one, would argue that I think it would be really smart for them to partner with these TV manufacturers and, yeah, offer a free Xbox controller when you purchase this TV, and maybe you sign up for Game Pass for $1. What do you guys think about the idea of, yeah, maybe that's a way into the mainstream market? Kyle?
Yeah, no, I think that would be a fantastic way to get in, because I know a lot of people, even tech-savvy people, who buy these new smart TVs, and even though they've got, say, a Roku stick or an Apple TV connected, they just use the Netflix app on the TV because it's built in, it's easy, away it goes. They know that it's always just going to work once they've signed in. They don't need to worry about updating the box in the back end. So partnering with TVs, and like you say, here's a free Xbox controller, and then people go, why am I getting an Xbox controller with my new LG or my new Sony TV? And you go, oh, because you've just gotten 3 months free of Game Pass. Oh, what's Game Pass? You know, it's a kickstart to that conversation, and it gets people thinking, this TV is pretty cool. And yeah, as long as they start getting that conversation going, they're going to start bringing people into the ecosystem that probably would never have thought about it.
Yeah, Lee, what about you? Would you agree with what Kyle's mentioned?
Yeah, I think they'll take it a step further and make a little box available. They're talking about the Xbox box, like a little mini, not a console, but just something
Like an Apple
you plug in
TV
the
sort
back.
of thing?
Like like a Roku or something. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, just
50
like a Fire
bucks,
Stick.
like a Fire Stick. Yeah, plug it in the back of your TV. You get giggy internet into the back of it, so it's a really good connection. And then you can do your party games with your mates or connect to your Xbox or whatever. Yeah.
I think that would be really smart, particularly if just the internals of the TVs themselves can't, handle
It takes
the,
some pressure, doesn't
Bluetooth
it?
of
It
the
takes pressure off
controller.
it,
Yeah, it just sort of isolates the I suppose the tech away from the TV and into something completely dedicated. So, yeah, that could be really interesting. I think honestly that's probably the way that this is really going to penetrate the market in a massive capacity. I think the idea that for someone who doesn't know what Game Pass is at the moment, hey, 100 plus high quality games dropping into Game Pass, and yeah, it is just like, I can see it now. Someone at JB Hi-Fi saying, "Oh, and also with your Samsung TV, you have this controller, and here's what Xbox Game Pass is. It's the Netflix of games. You subscribe for one low monthly fee, and you get access to all these fantastic titles." Yeah, maybe that's how we get more people playing Hades or a Fusion Frenzy, right? Like all of a sudden, a family who might not have been into gaming just have a really easy in. So I think that could potentially be the way that this really penetrates the market in a massive way.
Microsoft love services as well. That's what Microsoft's all about, selling you a service, a monthly fee for something. So it's perfect for them.
Yeah, that's Microsoft Office now, right? It's a subscription service, 365.
Microsoft everything, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's now pivot a bit away from Xbox and Microsoft and think about subscription services in general, because there seem to be popping up all the time. We've just had Netflix announce their own. Amazon have entered the space with Amazon Luna. We've had Google Stadia come and are sticking around seemingly, but they've abandoned all first-party development. Game Pass is a thing, so is Xbox Live Gold. We've got PlayStation Plus, and now Nintendo Switch Online and the expansion pack with their back catalogue of N64 games, and also Sega Genesis games making their way to that service also. Third-party publishers like EA have EA Play. Ubisoft has Ubisoft Plus. It's starting to look like TV and film subscriptions, wouldn't you agree, guys, where that everyone has their own subscription service? Firstly, like, yeah, what do we think of this? Is this smart? Like, the idea that all of a sudden we have access to thousands of games for low monthly fees sounds like a really good idea, but do you think we've already hit saturation point maybe? Is it becoming too much too quickly? Lee, I'll go to you first.
I think they'll disappear, which normally happens. Like, they all try, don't they, to try and get on the board. Like, EA is kind of disappearing. It's kind of not being Game Pass, really. And I wonder if Ubisoft would do the same. They're like, oh, well, these guys are doing quite well. We'll hang out with Netflix or PlayStation or whoever.
Yeah, it's a good point, sort of consolidating some of those smaller ones into larger services, right? I know Ubisoft has games available in Amazon Luna, like as part of like their own dedicated Ubisoft
so they're already
channel.
doing it then,
so yeah, that's already happening. But Kyle, pardon me, what are your thoughts on this with the subscription services popping up all the time? Is it happening too quickly, do you think? Will some fall away like Lee is sort of positing?
Yeah, I definitely see not all of them sticking around, like Stadia, for instance, which launched to great fanfare, and then a couple months later decided they were only doing third-party games, and they're still busy trying to work on their back end. The subscriptions have to really have a value add for people to stick with. And I think Netflix has that really well, because they go, have a look, we got new content coming out semi-regularly that you can subscribe for a month and binge, and then for the next 2 months you subscribe to, say, Disney Plus or something else. You kind of cycle them through. I think the big ones, the big players in the market, will absorb the others, like how EA Play has just jumped into Game Pass, simply because people will go, I could pay EA the same amount of money I'm paying Game Pass, but I'm only getting 10 hours of FIFA a month. People will weigh that up, and they'll go where they see the most value in their mind. And so I definitely see this whole idea of subscriptions. We're in the explosion phase now, and I reckon in about a year's time or so, most of these will have consolidated or just disappeared or just faded away. It's a tough one to be in, because you want to launch your subscription service and get that customer into your ecosystem, and it's a good way to increase stickability and to get that person to be constantly giving you money every month for a service you're providing.
Isn't it called barrier to entry, isn't it? Isn't it what they call it? How easy it is to get onto the service is a massive thing.
I mean,
And that's why Netflix works.
Because it's everywhere, yeah. And I mean, it's even built into
yeah.
TVs. So the barrier of entry is pretty low. But now for this Nintendo subscription, the barrier of entry starts at $500. You have to have a Switch in order to be able to pay Nintendo even more money. So the barrier of entry is really high, and I don't see that being a good sort of fit for Nintendo. Nintendo is a strange one because they'll just do what Nintendo does, and you'll get millions of people all following Nintendo because they absolutely love it. And Nintendo will just carry on being Nintendo and just survive whatever they do. It's a strange one. But with the other ones like Luna, Amazon Luna, and Stadia, I see them being different. I see GeForce Now particularly as its own beast because you can access your own content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a big value add and a big stickability point for GeForce Now, is that you've got access to their servers, but it's your content, your games that you're playing, that you've paid for, that you're invested in. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's great thoughts there. Thanks for illustrating them so well. You mentioned Nintendo. There was a great article on gamesindustry.biz that I'll link in the chat. It's from Christopher Dring over there. The title reads, Nintendo's approach to subscriptions is worth watching. At their most recent Nintendo Direct, which you're seeing on screen at the moment, they announced an expansion pack to their Nintendo Switch Online offering, essentially bringing what I mentioned earlier, Nintendo 64 and some Sega Genesis era games into the service for an additional fee. We don't know what the fee is yet, though right at this moment you can get a year's worth of Nintendo Switch Online for $30 Australian. So expansion on top of that, you're probably seeing up to maybe double that. If we know Nintendo, they might try and charge more. We're just going to have to wait and see. Though that launches in late October, so we'll probably find out very soon. But to Christopher Dring's article on Games Industry, he noted that this could be a better way in than the Game Pass model, where it's obviously a much lower cost, like I just mentioned, $30 for a year, as opposed to $120 a year for Game Pass, or $180 if you're talking about Game Pass Ultimate. And then adding on these expansion packs, right, like these other clusters, and he compared it mostly to the old school cable television offerings, where you have like a core offering and then you select the content packs that you want around that, the different content from different channels. If we get this kind of variety in the market, guys, do we think that this could be a way that these different subscription services exist? Like, because I think for most people, they just look at Game Pass as the best practice, right? It's just like all of this exclusive content, hundreds of high quality games, day one launches, and you pay one fee and you get access to everything. But over the course of the year, that can be pretty expensive. Do we think maybe something more piecemeal like this could work and live alongside Game Pass as like a different kind of, I suppose, structure? Lee, what do you think about Nintendo's approach here, and piecemealing it and offering it in different chunks, I suppose?
So I immediately thought of Sky when you said that. So what happens with Sky is you pay the minimum 40, and then you want to watch one TV program, you spend another 40, and then you want to watch this other program, another 40. So it ends up being more money anyway. So I don't know if it could work because they're cheap, but their $20 doesn't give you much now. So to give it more, they might have to. So it could end up being quite expensive, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, if they continue to add expansion packs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they always do it sneakily, that you have to get certain ones which kind of give you the one game you want to play. But if I could get a Switch subscription and not buy a Switch, I'll be happy. Like the Game Pass one, because I'd love to play the Switch games, but I don't want to buy a Switch because they're really expensive.
Right.
But I'll buy a controller for $100 and then play Switch games on my TV. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I think the day that you can play Nintendo games not on a Nintendo console is the day that hell freezes over.
Yeah.
Who knows? We've seen crazier things. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this sort of like piecemeal offering that or structure that Nintendo is going for with their subscription service?
It definitely appeals to Nintendo's fan base, their core. Their fan base seems to be able to take apart what they like about Nintendo a lot easier than other fan bases. So it definitely appeals to Nintendo's fan base. For your average consumer, though, they want one level, one amount to pay. They just want Sky. You know, they're going to walk in and say, I want Sky because I want to get better channels on my TV. They're not going to wonder about what different packages get to what until they get to the salesman. And then how many times do they get to the salesman where they go, you need this package and add on your phone line, and then they just get annoyed and walk out. So I definitely think the sort of entry level for these expansion packs, it's a good way of doing it, but it's also a difficult way to sell to consumers, to just your average person who just wants to maybe jump into Mario 64 on the GameCube, for instance.
Just use Edge on the Xbox and use a player ROM, and then you're away. That's the problem with that, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So like Lee says, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they market these expansion packs, how they put different games in, whether it's going to be by publisher or by generation. I just see a lot of confusion at the moment until it launches, of course. But Nintendo being Nintendo, they'll do it and they'll get great success. People just love Nintendo and will just happily throw money at Nintendo no matter what they do. And I think that's almost built Nintendo into an unfailable entity. And that just allows them to go their own way and be very strange and weird.
I completely agree. I think there is going to be enough of the 80 million strong Switch user base that will say, you're telling me it's only this much extra a year to play all these beloved 64 games and I get to play Mario Kart online with my friends? Yes, Nintendo, I'll pay you anything you ask me to. I do think it is a bit weird, though, like this is the route that they're taking, because if there's anything we know about console buyers, is that the reason you go to a console for your gaming is it because you buy one thing, you plug it into your TV and it works. There's no confusion. And so the idea that Nintendo is adding layers of complexity to its own subscription service is a bit backwards to me in my mind. Like, I would have thought they would have gone with the Xbox Game Pass model, right? Where it's one subscription, you get everything. And it's really easy for families and parents in particular to understand if they're buying it for their kids. And maybe the way that they get extra money out of people is the Netflix model, where you have a family plan where it's available for 2 Switches in your handheld, and all of a sudden you're buying 2 consoles for your kids and paying more per month, which is what we see with Netflix, right? Like, you pay the higher amount to have it available on more screens at the one time. I think I would prefer that. I don't think this is a necessarily bad way to go about it. I just think it might be a bit confusing. And I think they put themselves in a tricky position if they want to add more content later. Like, are we going to get 2nd, 3rd, 4th expansion packs offering...
That's exactly what they'll do, though, isn't it? They'll just keep building on it, surely.
And so you're just paying, to your point, Lee, for different channels. You think that's probably where they're going to double down?
What they do. Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. I think that
could you can pay for the new release channel you can pay for.
Right.
Gives you all the new releases, which is an extra $20 a month. It will kind of just keep going.
And all of a sudden you're giving Nintendo $80 a month for all of their content, potentially, with the Nintendo Switch Complete Package subscription. Right, yeah. Interesting. All right, guys. Well, I'd just like to wrap up this conversation around this topic with, do we see Game Pass as the gold standard right now for the way to create value as part of a subscription service? Is there any improvements or changes we'd like to see to this? I for one would like to see Xbox Live Gold just go away completely. I think the idea that Xbox continues to charge for multiplayer for their most dedicated fan base on consoles and not on PC, and probably not on cloud. I would like to see that change. Thoughts overall on Game Pass? How would we like to see it improve as well? Kyle.
Yeah, Game Pass has become the de facto service because it has been almost the first service to come out into people's mind and their brain space. I do think that Xbox Live Gold should go away. It's a dinosaur of its time. And I mean, the games we're getting on the free games we're getting with Xbox Live Gold these days you get excited about one game maybe these days out of 4.
I think one game every 3 months. Yeah, you get some little gold nugget in there.
Yeah, and it's normally that game because it's coming to Xbox backwards compatibility. It's a 360 game that you're like, yes, it's finally back.
I remember that game. I played it 10 years ago,
Yeah, I still need to finish that game, that type of thing. Game Pass is really good at what they're doing. They just need to get into the forefront more of PC gamers, I think, because a lot of people see Xbox Game Pass and don't realize that it's on PC as well. So already you have the 3 tiers. You've got Game Pass for console, Game Pass for PC, and then Ultimate, which gives you all 2 together. I see that they need to get rid of that. They need to give you a Game Pass and a Game Pass Ultimate. The Game Pass Ultimate should give you the subscription across PC and console, and Game Pass should give you a choice. Do you want to play on console or PC? And there's just one, and you just get to choose. Rather than have Game Pass for PC and Game Pass for console and all that confusion. They could really tighten it up a lot. In saying that, of course, Game Pass has probably the biggest stickability in the entire industry at the moment, simply because of what it offers day one. No other company is doing day one releases on a subscription service where you're paying the price of 2 games a year to access how many, 500 games or something? I saw the last count
about
across
400 something, yeah.
On all, yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean, no one has time for that unless you're part of the Hall of Gamers, guys. In which case, you're probably running out of content there on Game Pass.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, Lee, your thoughts on Game Pass? Any ideas for how it could improve? Kyle was just mentioning probably removing confusion away from their offerings. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the problem with that is Microsoft loves SKUs, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
It's a thing they do, so I don't know if they'll. Oh, they need to get rid of Game. I think they keep talking about getting rid of Xbox Live, don't they? There seems to be always every few months it comes up, and
yeah, there have been reports saying that they fully intend to. They're just waiting to hit a certain threshold of Game Pass subscribers, which recently we learned could have eclipsed 30 million at this point.
30 million. So there wasn't 40 the target, and they said once we get to 40, it's paying for itself or something. I think that was the.
I'm not sure they've ever publicly said that, but yeah. So just to clarify where this 30 million number has come from, Phil Spencer recently appeared in an interview with a Yahoo show, I think called The Grill or The Wrap, and Strauss Zelnick, CEO of Take-Two, appeared as well. Strauss casually dropped that Game Pass had reached 30 million subscribers, and Phil was quick to mention that the last public announced figure was 18 million back in January. Right. So the idea that they've added 12 million subscribers in the past 9 months is pretty nuts, though not inconceivable. So yeah, but yeah, Lee, any other ideas on how Game Pass could be improved or changed, do you think?
Oh, if we're going to say something I've forgotten now, but yeah, I think they're just more games. Yeah, enough games. I think tying it into like the TV thing's quite an interesting idea. Tying it into devices is quite a cool idea. Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah,
get it away from Xbox is what they're going to do. They're going to make it into more of it's a thing you just buy, and if you have an Xbox, that's great. But it works anyway. So yeah, I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah, I just want to see more variety on the service as well, right? Like we spoke earlier about the fact that Xbox is seemingly they have a couple of gaps to fill, right? In the sense of
family friendly, isn't it? Yeah.
I know a lot of people want to see some games that are similar to what PlayStation's offering, like third-person, cinematic, story-driven action
single-player games.
Yeah, I think you're going to get that with something like Hellblade and probably Perfect Dark as well in the long run. And I think Bethesda will probably ship games like that also. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's still some things to improve on.
I think we're on like a 2 or 3 years, isn't it? That's the problem. So all these new acquisitions not going to do anything for the next 2 years.
That's
so
right.
So it will be 2024 possibly when they start pushing the stuff out.
Yeah. Matt Booty, like head of Xbox Game Studios, has said that their goal is to have one big new release from first party every 3 months dropping into the service. Now, we know they haven't quite hit that cadence yet, at least for the first 6 months of this year, and even dating further back to the Series X launch. We haven't had a big exclusive. It wasn't until we got Psychonauts 2 in August, and then Microsoft Flight Sim, and then Horizon, and then Forza Horizon, and Halo in December. But what does the first 6 months of 2022 look like? We're kind of unclear at the moment. We know Redfall's coming mid-year, Starfield's in November, but yeah, when are they going to reach this cadence of that next big Xbox game? It's just around the corner in like 2 or 3 months' time. So I think they just need to work on their release timings as well. Spread them out.
Or stop promising what they can't deliver, maybe as well.
That's a great point. Totally agree. Anyway, guys, we might wrap up the show there because I'm mindful that it's probably inching closer to 1 a.m. for Lee.
Yeah, 10 to 1 now.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, before we wrap it up, Lee, Kyle, I would love for you to plug once again the XboxCast and the fantastic work you do over there with Simone, who's been fantastic in chat. Thank you, Simone, for joining us for this one also. Yeah, tell everyone, where can they catch up with you guys and check out the XboxCast?
I think we should talk about our event that's happening this month. We're having an event called
please do.
Witcherween, it's called, and we're all playing The Witcher, and quite a few listeners are all playing The Witcher. And the idea is you just play, and it doesn't matter if you start at the beginning or start at the middle or start at the end. Like just play The Witcher and then tell us stories. We do screenshots after the Game Face episode. We always do a screenshot share.
Okay.
So we want lots of screenshots of this Witcher and like lots of interaction with it. Come into a Discord and give us a stick and tell us how you're better at it than us. And you got more achievements than we have. That's what we want to hear. And you should watch our last YouTube that came up on the XboxCast. There's awesome animation that one of our listeners did for us. Just absolutely incredible.
Nice.
I think Simone was crying basically in it. It was just no, it's incredible. You kind of go it's really good to get the interaction and go talk about the community. But the guys do all sorts of stuff for us, all these amazing animations, and the logos are getting created for us, all this kind of cool stuff that's been done. So it's a big month for us this month.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And
really cool.
just in general though, the Xbox Cast, when, where, tell how the people how they can check you out.
Tuesdays, 6 o'clock New Zealand, Australian, 8 o'clock New Zealand's. Every Tuesday.
It's scrolling by in the ticker right now. Look at that. Perfect time.
Oh, there you go. Perfect timing. Yeah. Ish. Yeah. I say ish because sometimes stuff happens and it's a bit late. Because, live podcasting does that sometimes.
It's live podcasting. Yeah. It's totally
and look, if you Google the XboxCast, you'll find us. But we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on all sorts of places. Everywhere. Just look for the XboxCast. We'll take up the first 5 or 6 pages on Google, basically. So nice. You can't miss us.
Well, good. I've just linked your Twitter profile in the chat, so please do go check out the XboxCast and follow them on Twitch as well, where you can catch the live show. Obviously, your Twitch handles are below you: Zarkrius for Kyle and @LeeHoward for Lee. I want to thank everyone for joining us in chat. This has been the question box for Friday the 1st of October. If you've enjoyed this, you can catch all the past episodes on my YouTube channel. Just search Magic Casts on YouTube, including an episode last week with Maxi Luke, who's just joined us in chat. It's good to see you, my friend. We had he guested on the last episode. Next week, it's going to be a completely different show. We're actually going to be doing a Hades review discussion. I'm lining up a couple of guests, and the show we won't be covering any news. It'll be just dedicated to talking about Hades and why it's amazing. If anyone's in chat and wants to talk about why it's bad, then you'll be automatically banned because I won't hear it. All right. But looking forward to that one. Thanks. You follow me on Twitter as well, magic_cast. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Kyle, for joining me. Appreciate Lee again staying up so late for this one. And for those out there, be sure to tune in next week right here on this Twitch channel, magic_cast as well. Thanks so much to the chat for joining us as always, and we will see you all next time.